Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark.
And I'm Randy.
Today we're taking a look at Station Master.
Station Master is brought to you by Calliope Games. It plays 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and up, and each game takes between 30 and 50 minutes to play.
Great, well let's board the train. Well, it looks like it's going to be a busy day down at the station. You take on the role of the Station Master, trying to pair rail cars and locomotives as well as passengers into the right configuration to have the best efficiency and get those trains moving. So yes, if you're familiar at all with Station Master, this is a new version and it is much improved. It really pops off the table. And just like the old one, it is all about getting the most efficiency points.
To set up a game of Station Master, you'll lay out a number of locomotive cards equal to the number of players, although there are special rules if you're only playing with 2 players. Additionally, each player will be given a set of passenger tokens with various values on them. Now these are kept hidden. We've put them face up just to show you what they are, but in general you will keep these hidden until a train leaves the station.
Yeah, and the cool thing about these tokens too is that they all have different shapes,
yes.
So they're very colorblind friendly.
That's right.
And they definitely stand up on their edge,
yeah.
So you can keep them in front of you and not have to keep flipping them up and down.
Exactly. Right. Additionally, each player will be given 3 of these Station Master cards. Now these Station Master cards come in 2 flavors. They either have rail cars that we'll be putting behind specific locomotives, or there'll be these special action cards, which will sometimes will be placed with the rail cars, and sometimes you will just do the action and then discard the cards. Lastly, each player will have a depot card, and we'll explain to you what these cards are for. The game consists of turns where in each turn you will do one of 2 things. You will either A, you will play one of your Station Master cards, or and then immediately draw another Station Master card, so you'll always have 3 of these in your hand, or you'll place one of your passengers face down on one of the locomotives or one of the depot cards.
So like Randy said, throughout the game you're going to be playing Station Master cards, and they come in those 2 flavors. You have actions and you have rail cars. Now the rail cars have a negative and positive values associated with them depending on which card you play. And your locomotives that you're going to be attaching them to have a number on them as well. These numbers will dictate the number of passengers, the maximum number of passengers, as well as the maximum number of rail cars that get associated with that particular train. Once you have that number of rail cars on that train will depart and move out of the station, which then will cause you to calculate points.
So let's go over a specific example of scoring. During the game, as each train leaves the station, you will keep track of the points scored by each player who had a passenger or has a passenger on that train.
Efficiency points.
Those are keys. So you'll add those to those players' previous scores. So you'll have a running total throughout the game.
Yep.
Let's use this as an example down here in this lower one. We have both white and yellow who have passengers on the train. Right now there's a +6 and 2 -3s. The total number of cars are 5, that's the limit. So let's say one player plays this, let's say purple plays this because he doesn't have a vested interest, and let's say white plays this card. And this is a special type of rail card. If it's attached to a locomotive that's an executive locomotive, and it's shown by this little gold bar here, then that's +7 points. But for any other locomotive, any other train, it's -4 points. So let's say white plays this as the final railway car on that particular locomotive, and you'll understand in a second why he does. If you total the number of points for those cars, you have a +6, and then you have -13 here. So 3 -3s and a -4, and the total then is a -7. What you'll do with this number is you'll multiply it by the player's passenger numbers, the total number there. And in the case of white knew beforehand that he was planning on building lots of negatives there, so he put his one passenger that has a minus value there, and sure enough, a -7 times a -1 is a +7 rather.
And I like the thematic nature of the -1. It's a ticketed passenger that basically got a free ticket.
There we go, there we go. So it's a plus for him, even if things go poorly. So that player, the white player, scores a +7.
Yes.
Now, let's say the yellow player put down his passenger when there was a +6 there. He was convinced this was going to be a great train, it was good to ride on.
Brutal.
He actually put down a +3. So that -7 times a +3 gives him -21 points.
Ooh, rough.
That would be added to whatever his previous total was. Now, don't despair, because even in the worst case scenario, your running total can't go below 0 points.
Indeed.
So
scores can go really high in this game.
They can go
ramp
very
up
high.
fast.
Yes. So if this were a positive, and you can imagine, since the scores, the positive values can go, I think, +7 might be the highest one.
Yeah, I think
but you think about with multiple cars, maybe all the way up to 8 cars, you can end up with a very big value there.
It's huge.
Yes, and then times high numbers, and you're not limited to just one passenger. You could stack up additional passengers,
Indeed.
so you get high passenger points times potentially high railway card points for very high efficiency points for a particular train.
And Calliope has a scoring app for this game, which is really cool. So it definitely aids and helps you with the game, but I mean, a pad and paper works just as well.
Right, right.
And so there are several different types of action cards that do all kinds of things in this game. We'll give you a couple examples. Ones that I used frequently in our game was like the transfer, where you can move passengers from one train to another, because you get a sense once suddenly there's a ton of negative points on a train, you're like, ooh, I better get my passengers out of there. So that's a good one. You're moving passengers between different trains.
And you can use that to either move your passengers to a more advantageous spot, or another person's passengers to a less advantageous spot.
Indeed. And then we have reassign, which reassign allows you to do something similar as moving passengers, but you're moving rail cars instead between the different trains.
A couple of other interesting action cards are, first, the rush hour card. Now this is one you won't use when you're in a 2-player game, but otherwise, as soon as you draw this action card, you will play it. And what this will do is this will add an additional locomotive to the set of locomotives out here. And so if you're playing with 4 people, you'll add a 5th locomotive, and you will continue to play with 5 locomotives for the remainder of the game. This gives you quite a few more options, so it's an interesting card to have come up. Another one is the caboose card. And the caboose card, as soon as it's played on a train, the train leaves the station.
It does.
And so, for example, you've got a train here that shows the locomotive shows an 8 in the upper left-hand corner, and that means that unless something else changes, this train won't leave the station until it has 8 railway cars behind it. Now, the caboose is very handy because you might say, hey, I've got points coming from this, and I really don't want to wait for a handful of more cards to be played.
Or negative points to be applied.
Exactly. So other players could put you in a disadvantaged situation. So you could play this and get the train out of the station, score the points before somebody else has a chance to undermine your strategy.
So these action cards really make a big difference in how you play. And that's one of the things. You have to balance putting your passengers on trains as well as cycling cards to get you more either positive, negative points that you need versus actions that you can perform.
Yeah, and that's the trick I encountered here, is that you're stuck with 3 of these Station Master cards, and you don't have the option of doing a discard of your hand and drawing 3 new cards. So even if the cards don't do what you want them to do, you're forced to make the choice, playing a passenger or playing a card. And if you want a better card, it means you've got to play one first.
And we have to talk about the depot card, because this is a one-time use. It's pretty powerful, actually.
It is.
And if you can see a train starting to go south, maybe you want to play your depot card so you can basically do a pit stop.
Yeah. So passengers can get off, passengers who are on the locomotive can get off at that point in time, and you would score based upon the railway cars that were there and the passengers that were there. But then the train continues on, and additional passengers can get on from that point forward.
Yeah. And we found it to be really powerful.
Yeah.
Especially in that late game, you're like, oh, I need those points.
Yeah. This is a way, like Mark was saying earlier, this is a way where if you find you've got passengers on a locomotive and things aren't going the way you want them to, you could play this depot to say, I'm going to minimize the damage, or they're going really well, and I don't have a caboose card in hand. This is kind of like a caboose because it allows the train to be scored immediately, but things aren't over. The train continues.
And so the game comes to an end once all the locomotive cards have been played and the last train has left the station. And whoever has the most efficiency points is going to be the ultimate station master. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, I never played the original of this game, but this version, I like the look of it, and it pops off the table for sure. And it is very accessible. This is a game I can easily see playing with my family, but there is, some definitely jockeying for position in this game.
There is.
Yeah.
I like the fact Calliope has provided like a 5-minute tutorial video.
Yeah.
It's very easy to teach people. Like Mark said, it's got good table appeal, so especially, it's the holidays right now, but anytime you could easily attract people.
This is definitely coming out at the holidays for me. Yeah, absolutely.
And from previous previews and reviews, I like interesting choices in games. And this game has choices in terms of whether you invest in putting your passengers out there or whether you invest more in maybe putting fewer passengers out there and really putting more of these railway cards out there to either benefit you or sabotage your opponents.
Indeed.
There's lots of opportunities, because if you're spending a lot of time putting negatives on what you think are passengers with positive values that your opponents have put out there, you can keep them from catching up with you if you're ahead.
And if you have those action cards that allow you to move passengers around, you
Oh,
can kind
yeah.
of bluff your position a bit.
Definitely,
It's
yeah, that's
pretty
great. You could be
interesting.
putting cards out there. It's like I'm putting negative things out there, and you think this is a bad thing to be on, and all of a sudden you play an action card, and two of those negative cards move elsewhere. So absolutely true.
Yep. So ultimately, folks, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support.
That's right.
So I think that's it from us. And until next time, we'll
see you at the table.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.